Hello. So with doing so many characters, Itachi, Alucard, going to a lot of different places with character traits and revisiting them for things like video games, how do you keep them like all in check? Like what's your process like getting back into character if you have to revisit it?
Well, there's two aspects to getting back into the character. One is knowing physically where the character is placed in my voice. With a character that I've done for as long as Itachi or Alucard, I sort of know physically where they are. But when I don't, when it's maybe a character I haven't done as often, when I come into the studio, they will have a vocal reference. And even if I do know the character well, like Itachi, because he's sort of soft and breathy, it's good to have that vocal reference to make sure I'm dialing it in just right. Because your voice changes so much from day to day that maybe one day you're a little more nasal, maybe another day you're a little rougher in your voice. And that could be a radically different character shift. So I want to make sure that we're really nailing where Itachi is. So usually they'll play me a vocal reference first, and then I can physically dial him back in, and also mentally, when I hear the performance, I can remember, oh right, that's his agenda, that's what he's all about, that's what he wants. Those are the two aspects that I hang on to when I'm getting, quote, into a character. Physically, where are they placed? And mentally, what do they want? What's their sort of agenda as a character? And many times, that agenda is what helps shape the physicality. Sometimes when I'm having problems physically finding a voice, I go, wait a minute, what does he want? Oh, right, and then the voice comes out better. And in fact, I think Seki-san has said that himself when he does characters, that he's focused more on what the character wants, and the voice comes out sort of as an afterthought almost.
Could you also do an Izaya yell for us?
Okay.
Will you reimburse them for the speakers if I blow them? Izaya! No, it's early in the morning for an Izaya yell.
So, hearing a bunch of voice actors and a lot of stuff online, you have a bit of a notorious streak for being really funny in outtakes and just messing with a lot of the production. These RTs also told some really good stories about you on Slayers.
Yep.
Hearing from the source, what were some of your just some of the best stuff you did to mess with voice actors or stuff on production teams and outtakes?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think the panels are rated, so I can't really. But one of my favorite outtakes was the other person who's really good at this is Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom and I love to leave dirty outtakes for each other. But the rule is they have to match lip flap. If they don't match lip flap, they don't count. There was a little show we did, Ghost Slayer Zayashi. And in the show, it's set at the end of the sort of samurai shogun era. We're fighting ghosts and demons. He's playing the lead, this sort of rakish, rough around the edges, Ronin, masterless samurai with his stubble. And I'm playing a cross-dressing Shinto priest who fires cannons. Who knew? So I'm dressed up completely fabulously in drag, but I'm allowed to use sort of my normal voice a lot. Like at one point, one of the characters says, "Oh, we have an all-female bathhouse over there," and my character goes, "You know I'm a guy, right?" There was an episode of that show where the two of us have a scene in the rain, sort of like Four Weddings and a Funeral style, where the water's dripping down our faces and we're looking at each other. And we're supposed to be talking about battling demons, right? We are totally coming on to each other. We are totally making the most raunchy, X-rated outtakes we possibly can. And they kept continuing. It's not just, one outtake and another. It was like one, another, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. They're like, "You're gonna rewrite the whole show? What's the deal, guys?" I don't know whatever happened to those outtakes. I know the engineers take them home and keep them. So I may have to track them down and say, "Can I get a copy of those outtakes? That'd be great." But what is wonderful now is that they are starting to release them. The first one that they did that on that I'm aware of was Noeen. They started, there was a wonderful line there where I had the two little kids and they're talking to me, and they said, "We don't understand what you're talking about." And I said, "I'm gonna have my way with the both of you, and then I'm gonna do the dog." We're doing that in the booth just to stay relaxed and to joke around sometimes, and they actually released it. They put it on the DVD, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Okay. And then Shizuo had one where there's two little girls talking to him, and I had to channel Alan Rickman from Robin Hood and be like, "You, 10 o'clock, you, 10:30, and bring a friend," which does not bode well for Shizuo's stamina. But this stuff, it's silly, it's fun, because the problem is when you're in the booth, it can get very tense because you're having to do this very technical thing over and over and over again, and so sometimes you have to sort of shake it off and go, "Oh, okay, right, gotta stay present in the acting moment." So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Howdy.
Hi.
The character is Straight Cougar from
Yes.
Stride. How difficult were his speed talking scenes compared to other things you've done, when he's talking really fast about how you can write a novel in just one day as opposed to 2 weeks? It makes you so much smarter than anyone else. How difficult was that to record? Did you have trip over your tongue?
Yeah, for those who may not know it, this is a show called Stride, and I played a character named Straight Cougar. Think Japanese X-Men, we all have different powers, and Cougar's power was he could rebuild the car he was in to go really, really fast. And he was just obsessed with speed. And when he used his power, he would start talking like a Vinnie Machines guy. He would just start talking a mile a minute. The monthly manga is better than the weekly manga. The weekly manga is better than the daily. And he just goes so fast. And when we look at the scripts for anime, they're done as a spreadsheet. And each cell of the spreadsheet, maybe about that big or along the page sort of thing, I turn the page and the entire page is one cell. And it's all me. It's just one huge block of text. And I'm looking at the director going, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "Yeah." The challenge then was, you can't stop in the middle. Sometimes when you're doing lines at a normal rate of speed, if I mess up in the middle of a sentence,
like that, yeah.
like that, I can punch in and make sure that it works. I was doing that on purpose. But when you're speaking that fast, you can't punch in. You can't just jump in halfway and pick up where you were. So it was sort of like doing a ski run. You had to start at the top of the hill and just all the way down to the bottom. And if you wiped out halfway, you had to pick yourself up and go back to the top. And so basically, I would go, "Okay, ready, go." Okay, let's try again. Ready, go. It would take at least 3 or 4 times before I could sort of tear through the whole thing without falling on my face. Because there was just no other way to do it. So that was how we got that accomplished.
Awesome. Well done.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Freeman.
Good morning.
I'm attending Keene University in the fall, and I'm going to be for theater performance. And I've been doing a lot to try and prepare for this. I began listening to your voice acting mastery podcast some time ago.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Thank you. Great podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
And you're exposed to the stage at a very young age. Now, my question is, what does one have to do to prepare for the stage at a higher level?
Okay, well, first off, I'm glad you're enjoying the podcast. For those of you who don't know, I run a podcast, a free podcast on voice acting called Voice Acting Mastery. You can find it at voiceactingmastery.com, or you can go to the iTunes store and search for my name or voice acting, and it'll pop right up, and you can subscribe to the podcast within iTunes. I've been doing it now for over 2 years, which is sort of cool. It's a way for me to try to share with as many people as possible my knowledge and expertise about voice acting. Your question is about what happens, do you need to approach acting differently if you are trying to approach acting from a young age as opposed to a more mature age. There is no formula necessarily, because everyone's a very different animal, and everyone may have a different affinity for acting, okay? I was a terrible actor when I was young. I didn't really get it, to be perfectly frank. I had to go through a lot of experience and watching a lot of other people do it for me to start to figure out how this acting thing works. And then, even when I was older, I think even in like college, I still didn't really understand subtext as well as I should. Now this is the kind of thing that many people growing up just learn because they go to high school. You have to figure out subtext, and that sometimes people say things and they mean another thing. Like I had to learn that. Like I was like subtext to dyslexic or something. It didn't register. And so I don't think it's fair to say that young people approaching acting approach it one way, and older people approaching acting approach it another way. So I think the most important thing is figuring out how to be believable when playing pretend. The advantage a young person might have, not always, but they might have, is they might not be so self-conscious. I was terribly self-conscious as a kid. But some kids are just not self-conscious. They're like, okay, whatever, do the thing. And because they're not self-conscious, they seem more believable. What they lack, though, is life experience. They don't know what it means to have their heart broken many times. Or if they do, you feel bad for them because that's really rough for a kid to have their heart broken at that age, you know? But if they've lived a sort of more normal North American life, chances are they may not have had their heart broken. An older person can pull on those emotional experiences. They have more life stuff to pull on to help create their experiences. So that's an advantage an older actor might have. In the end, you're trying to play pretend as believably as possible. And much of what I have found when I'm working with my students is that most often what they are not doing is giving themselves permission to play pretend. It's not that they're lacking in skill. It's not that there's something that they're missing. It's that they're blocking themselves. Is that they're not allowing themselves to go to the emotional places that the character or the story is asking of them because they're scared. And it's completely reasonable why they'd be scared. Being an actor, getting up in front of a lot of people and exposing oneself emotionally is crazy. It is masochistic. It goes against every survival instinct you have as an animal. Why would you do this? You know, it doesn't make a lot of evolutionary survival sense. But it's artistic and it's satisfying. And when somebody does it well, we all applaud because we have this sense of rapport with the performer. So that's the biggest thing. It's about giving yourself permission to play those characters and giving yourself permission to go to the emotional places that the story or the character is asking of you. Everyone's going to have a different way to go there because everyone's going to have different restrictions. You know, I grew up, I never wanted people to think I was stupid, all right? And so there were certain characters I didn't want to play because I thought it would make me look stupid. Well, that blocks me. You know, I can't do that. When I play Hideki in Showbiz, he doesn't know anything about computers. He's a complete computer idiot. I was a hacker, you know? Like, I have to let go of the fact that people are gonna think I don't know how to use computers and play Hideki the way he needs to be played. That's usually what the main challenge is.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And for those who are interested, please subscribe to the podcast. I not only teach classes in LA, but I now do offer classes online. So if it's the sort of thing you'd be interested in doing, you can listen to the podcast for free, and then you can check out details on my online classes on the voiceactingmastery.com website as well. Next question.
My friend's favorite anime is I can't pronounce it. Yes. And
It's supposed to be the noise of a motorcycle, if you guys didn't know.